More mature than a simple hero story, he is being forced to understand that leadership is not about believing every loyal word. It is about seeing the truth behind silence. The role of Nilufar Hunt also become extremely important in this new phase. This is not just a romantic figure or a soft emotional balance to Orhan warrior identity. Her presence brings another layer to the story because through her the series explores diplomacy, identity, sacrifice, and the emotional price of political destiny in historical drama like this. Women are often placed in the background, but Krulus Orhan has changed the make Nilufar a key emotional and strategic force. Her relationship with Orhan is not only about love, it is about two worlds coming close while enemies try to use that closeness as a weakness. If Orhan sword represent conquest, Nilufar positions represent the fragile bridge that must be built after the sword has done its work. Meanwhile, the surrounding character add more fire to the story. Figures like Sahinsa's Babe, Leves, Tifuk, Sapros, Mohan Horn, Security, and Boran create different sides of the same struggle. Some represent old loyalty, some represent foreign danger, some represent the emotional memory of Osman Bey eras, and some remind Orhan that every new ruler must deal with the ghost of the previous generation. This is exactly why the series feels like it is standing between two worlds, the world of Osman Foundation and the world of Orhan expansions. Osman Bey built the door, but Orhan Bey must walk through it and prove that they can keep it open. Now the biggest question is this: can Orhan Bey become the leader his people need before his enemies complete their game? Because every new trailer and every new episode direction suggests that the trap around him are becoming more calculated. There are signs of revenge, hidden plans, dangerous alliances, and emotional breaking point. Orhan is not facing one enemy; he is facing a system of enemy, and that makes his rise more dramatic. A signal villain can be defeated with struggle, but a system must be defeated with patience, intelligence, and sacrifice. A state cannot be built with a sword alone. The real heart of Krulus Orhan is transformations of power. At the beginning of Maeve heroic stories, power looks simple. A brave man ride forward, defeat the enemy, protect his people, and earn respect. But Orhan's world is not that simple anymore. His father's legacy has given him a name, but it has also placed a mountain on his shoulders. Everyone expects him to brave, but bravery is no longer enough. Everyone expects him to be loyal to the past, but they must also build something new. This is the central conflict of this character. Orhan Bey must honor Osman Bey without becoming trapped inside Osman Bey's shadow. This is where the series becomes more interesting. Orhan enemies understand that they cannot defeat him only by attacking his soldiers. They must attack his confidence, his alliances, his family, and the unity of these people. If they can make the Bey doubt him, they do not need to defeat him in battle. If they can make his loved ones suffer, they can force him into emotional mistake. If they can turn one tribe and other against another, they can weaken the state from inside. This is why the latest episode feels more layered than a simple war story. The war outside the wall is only one part of the drama. The real war is called legitimacy. A young ruler away faces one dangerous question: does he command because he deserves it, or because it inherited it? Orhan we must answer this question. Orhan through action. Every victory must prove that he is not merely Osman's son. Every decision must prove that he has his own mind. Every sacrifice must show that the understand the price of leadership. This is why his silence can sometimes feel more powerful than his speeches. He is watching, learning, and mirroring the people around him. He is no longer acting like a young warrior. He is beginning to think like a ruler who knows that one wrong step can destroy everything his father built. The political side of the story also creates a strong emotional pull. A state is to build only with brave fighters. It needs law, discipline, license, taxes, justice, trade, and public trust. These things are not as dramatic as sword fight, but they are the foundation of real power. The series uses conflict to show this idea. When Orhan faces enemies, he is also facing the question of what kind of order he wants to create. Will his rule be based only on fear, or will it be based on justice? Will he conquer lands, remain bounded, or will they become part of a greater structure? Will different people live under constant suspicions, or can Orhan turn a different into strength? Nilüfer Hont's place is in this world become even more meaningful when see through this lens. Her presence symbolizes the complicated future. Orhan is walking toward the Ottoman dream cannot remain small. It must interact with other cultures, other faiths, other political systems, and other traditions. This does not make Orhan weaker. It forces him to become larger than the narrow world of tribal politics. But the expansion creates fear among those who prefer simple division. Some enemies want Turks and Byzantines to remain forever separated by hatred. Some want every marriage, every alliance, and every act of mercy to be seen as betrayal. Orhan's challenge is to rise above that narrow thinking without losing the soul of his people. The emotional weight Mulhan holds also matters. She represents memory, motherhood, continuity, and the older generation pain. For her, Orhan rise is not only political, it is personal. She has seen the cost of struggle. She knows that victory does not heal every wound. When she looks at Orhan, she does not only see a ruler, she sees a son walking into danger. This gives the series a human layer. Behind every grand historical moment, there are mothers who worry, wives who wait, friends who bleed, and families who carry grief quality. Security and Boran bring an other kind of strength. They connect the story to loyalty earned through years of struggle. Their presence reminds viewers the state are not built only by rulers, they are built by the people who stand beside them when victory is not granted. These characters carry the memory of the older saga and their past. Loyalty gives Orhan bridge between past and future, but even loyalty can be tested. The enemy knows that old warriors are dangerous not because they are young, but because they have already survived too much to be easily broken. The enemy game becomes darker in the latest direction of Kurulus Orhan The enemy is no longer satisfied with confrontations. Direct confrontations gives Orhan a clear target. It allows him to gather his men, raise his sword, and answer with strength. But the smarter enemy does not fight where Orhan is strongest. The smarter enemy creates confusion, the spread doubt. He uses false promise. He makes alliance question each other. He turned one's mistake into a political weapon. That is the kind of danger now surrounding by Obey. Flavus and Tekfur Saros represent more than individual villains. They represent an older than that understand it is losing ground when a rising power appears. The established power rarely accept it peacefully. They first mock it, then fear it. The crush to crush it or rise threatened more than castles. It threatens pride, trade, roads, influence, and the belief that the frontier Turks can be controlled forever. This is why the Byzantine side of the story is not simply angry. It is the separation makes enemies crueler, but it also makes them careless. The question is whether Orhan can force them into mistake before they force him into ones. One of the most effective dramatic tools in the phase in the use of trap or trap reveal the enemy intelligence, but it also reveals the hero growth. If Orhan escapes only through luck, he remains a warrior. If he escapes because he understood the plan before it closed around him, he becomes a ruler. This is the difference the series seems to be building toward. Orhan must become the kind of leader who does not only survive danger but reads it before others even notice it. That is what separates a brave man from a great commander. The phrase great game first the current atmosphere of the series very well. Every side is moving pieces. A marriage can become a strategy, a religious palace can become a battlefield, a prescience can become a bargaining chip, a rumor can become sharper than a dagger. Every mercury can be misunderstood as weakness. This creates constant pressure around Orhan. If he is too harsh, enemies will call him a tyrant. If he is too merciful, enemies will call him weak. If he trusts no one, he becomes insulated. If he trusts too easily, betrayal becomes inevitable. This is the burden of leadership. The emotional danger is just as strong as the political danger. When Orhan loved ones and threatening, the audience sees the man behind the ruler. This is where the series can deliver its strongest scenes. A ruler must appear calm front of his people, but inside he may be burning. The most powerful kind of revenge is not loud. It is quiet, patient, or controlled. If Orhan makes an oath of revenge, it should not feel like simple anger. It should feel like a ruler deciding that justice has been delayed long enough. But revenge is dangerous. If Orhan allows revenge to guide him completely, enemies win even before the battle begins. They want him angry, they want him reckless, they want him to break his own rule. The true victory of Orhan is not only pushing those who harmed him, it is proving that they can deliver justice without becoming the same as those he fights. That is the moral center of the story. A state built only on revenge will eventually destroy itself. A state built on justice can survive beyond one man's lifetime. This is why the current episode feels like a turning point. Orhan is being pushed toward a decision about what kind of ruler he will be. Will he become the sword of his father's dream, or the mind that turned that dream into a latest state? Will she allow enemies to define his path, or will he force them to fight on his terms? Every ambush, every betrayal, every political conversation is pushing him closer to that answer. Nilüfer Hunt and the Peace of Love in a Political World. One of the most emotional parts of Kurulus Orhan is the way love exists inside a world where nothing is innocent. In ordinary life can be private, but in Orhan's world, love becomes public, political, and dangerous. Every relationship around a ruler becomes part of the state. Every marriage can create an alliance, has provoked a war. Every emotional bond can be used by enemies as a weakness. This is why Nilüfer Hunt's role is so important. She is not simply there the often or soften or harm story. She is there to complicate it is the best possible way. Nilüfer's presence bring emotional depth because she stands at the meeting point of two worlds. Through her, the story can explore truth between culture, the fear of change, and the courage it takes to belong somewhere new. If he chooses Orhan world, that choice is not simple. It brings suspicion from one side and pain from the other. People may question her loyalty, enemies may use her originals against her, friend may misunderstand her silence, and yet if written strongly, Nilüfer can become one of the characters who understand Orhan most deeply because she also knows what it means to stand between worlds. For Orhan, love is both strength and danger. Nilüfer can give him peace in a world that never stopped demanding blood, but because he loves her, enemies can use her reach him. That create a painful contradiction. The very person who gives him emotional strength can become the person through whom enemies try to break him. This is why their relationship must be more than romantic dialogue. It should be built through shared trials. They must prove their trust not is peaceful greatness, but in moment of fear, accusation, and sacrifice. The series also the change to show Nilüfer as political aware. She should not be treated as someone who only wait for Orhan's decision. Her background, intelligence, and emotional insight can help Orhan understand enemies who think different from him. She may see dangers that his warrior miss. She may understand Byzantine court language, hidden insult, and diplomatic trap. Orhan rules it, strength it. She become part of the mind of the state. This kind of writing would make Orhan would riches a ruler surrounded only by warrior become one dimensions, but a ruler surrounded by warrior, mother, diplomat, spiritual guide, old companion, and politically intelligent woman become believable. That is how a state grows. If wars grows through the world alone, if grows through understanding. Nilüfer can represent that understand if can story give her space. The emotional conflict around Nilüfer can also create strong YouTube decisions material. Viewers will ask whether he is safe, whether she is being used, whether her choices will cost or harm something, and whether love can survive in a world built on conquest. These questions keep the audience engaged because they are not only about the next battle, they are about the heart of the story. People return to historical drama not only for war silence but for emotional consequence. If Oran must choose between personal happiness and political necessity, the drama becomes even stronger. A ruler heart cannot always belong to himself. Sometimes his love must become part of the quality duty. Sometimes his duty wants his love. This is the tragedy of leadership. Orhan may win castle, but the audience will ask what he loses inside himself along the way. That question makes him human. The shadow of Osman Bey and the rise of Orhan on name. No matter how powerful Orhan becomes, Osman Bey's shadow will always stand behind him. That is not a weakness in the story, it is of its greatest strength. Osman's legacy give Orhan a foundation, but it also creates pressure. People remember Osman as a founder, a fighter, a dreamer, and a man chosen by destiny. Or how does a son follow a legend without disappearing inside it? That is Orhan's deepest personal challenge. The series must also allow Orhan to respect Osman without copying him. If Orhan behaves exactly like his father, he become only an echo. If he rejects his father completely, that loves the soul of the story. The best version of Orhan is a man who understands Osman's dream but built in his own way. Osman founded the state through survival, faith, and resistance. Orhan must expand it through structure, diplomacy, and vision. His battlefield is larger but also more complicated. This is why every comparison between father and son should feel meaningful. Osman's enemies try to stop the birth of a state. Orhan's enemies are trying to stop that state from becoming permanent. Osman had to prove that the dream could begin. Osman must prove that the dream can last. These are different missions. A founder lights the fire, a successor must protect it from wind, betrayal, and arrogance. Molhan Horn became extremely powerful in the emotional landscape. She carries Osman's memory, but she must also allow Orhan to become his own man. That is not easy. A mother may want to protect her son from every danger, but a ruler cannot. He protect him destiny. Her scenes with Orhan can carry deep emotional forces. If they show this conflict, she sees Osman in him, but she must also accept that Orhan's road will not be exactly the same. This is painful but necessary. The world warrior also play a important role. They are living witness of Osman era. Their loyalty can support Orhan, but their expectation can also become a burden if they constantly be measured him against Osman. They may fail to see him on strength. Orhan must earn their loyalty not through bloodline but through action. When all warriors bow their head to him, not because he is Osman's son, but because he has proved himself, that will be one of the strongest emotional victories in the series. The audience also need to see Orhan make decisions Osman might not have made, not because Osman wrong, but because time has changed. A growing state requires different tools. A small frontier tribe may survive through raid and alliances, but a state must manage cities, road, markets, soldiers, court and taxes. This is where Orhan intelligence must shine. His name must become connected not only to conquest but to order them. The more the enemies underestimate him, the more satisfying his rise becomes. Many rivals may think Orhan is young, emotional, or dependent, not his father's legacy. This make will become their downfall because Orhan's greatest strength may be that he was watched history begin made him since childhood. He has been victorious and furious. He has seen loyalty and betrayal. He has learned that power without passion becomes ruin. Now the time has come from the turn those lessons into rule. The coming storm and why the next episode matter. The latest direction of Kurulus Orhan suggests that the story is moving toward a major storm. The Pisces are already on the road. Orhan Bey is gaining power, but enemies are closing in. Nilufar Hunt, emotional and political importance is rising. The Byzantine also is becoming more dangerous. Old loyalties are being tested, new traps are being prepared, and above everything, the question of Orhan truly identity as a ruler is becoming impossible to avoid. The next episode matter because they can define the entire tone of the series. If Orhan's journey is handled with depth, this is not simply be a continuation of Kurulus or Osman. It will become a small own chapter. That is important. A sequel must respect the past, but it must not live only from nostalgia. Kurulus Orhan must show viewers why Orhan Bey deserves his own story. The answer lies in the kind of empire he is beginning to build. Osman's story was about foundation. Osman's story is about transformation. The coming conflict should not only be about who wins the next fight, it should be fight who understand the future. The enemies may have castle, spies, gold, and all power, but Orhan has something more dangerous: direction. A man with directions can survive temporary defeat. A state that direction can rise from disaster. This is what makes Orhan fighting to him enemies. He is not fighting only for revenge, he is fighting for a future. They cannot stop. The emotional stakes are just as important. If someone close to Orhan is hurt, the audience will feel the pain. If a loyal companion is betrayed, the audience will anger. If Nilufar is palace in danger, the audience will feel fear. But the strongest drama will come from Orhan's response. Will he lose control or will he turn pain into strategy? Will he become a prisoner of grief or will grief sharpen him? This is where the character can truly grow. The series also need to keep the villain intelligence. A weak enemy make the hero look ordinary. A clever enemy make every victory feel earned. Flavius Arrows, another political opponent, should be simply shout threat. They should create situation where Orhan must choose between two painful options. This is real drama. A hero becomes memorable when victory cost him something. As the story move forward, viewers should watch for three major signs. First, watch how Orhan handled betrayal. That will reveal whether he is still learning or already mastering power. Second, watch now how Nilufar role develops. If she become a true political and emotional forces, the story will gain depth. The third, watch how the old warriors respond to Orhan decisions. Their acceptance will show whether the past has finally handed the future to him, and that is why Krulus Orhan remain exciting right now. It is not only about battles, horse, war, and castles. It is about inheritance, identity, love, revenge, justice, and the terrifying responsibility of leadership. Orhan Bey standing at the end of history. Behind him too is Osman Dream. In front of him is an empire that does not yet exist. Around him are enemies who want to bury that future before it is born. But every trap, every betrayal, and every wound is shaping him into the ruler they fear most. So the real question is not whether Orhan Bey will face danger. Of course he will. The real question is whether danger will break him or complete him. And if the latest episode continue in the direction, then the answer may be clear. Orhan is not only defending a legacy, he is becoming a one. When revenge becomes a test of kindship, after Boran Bey martyrdom, the world around Sultan Orhan no longer feels the same. The air of the palace changes, the silence of the soldiers becomes heavier, and very face around Orhan carries the same question. Will he Sultan answer? Will he justice? Or will pain drag him into a blind fire? That this is the most dangerous moment for any ruler, because grief does not arrive alone. It brings anger, suspicions, and the temptation to strike before thinking. Boran was not only a warrior, he was a living memory of old struggle, a man who carried the loyalty of Osman Bey time into Orhan a new age. This death is not simply a loss of one brave man, it is an attack on the soul of the state. Orhan understands this, and that is why the revenge cannot be ordinary. If he rides only to spill blood, his enemies will win half the war without lifting another sword. They want him shaken, they want him important, they want the young sultan to look powerful on the outside but broken inside. This is trap hidden inside Boran. Death Sciences and his allies are not only killing men, they are trying to kill trust. They want the bear to whisper that Orhan cannot protect two closest warrior. They want the soldiers to ask whether loyalty still has value. They want every mother in the tribe to fear that her son will die for a state that cannot avenge its own horses. But Orhan's true strength is that he begins to understand revenge as a political weapon, not just an emotional reaction. He does not need to shout to be dangerous. His quietness becomes frightening when he looks at the empty place where Boran once stood. The audience can feel that something inside him has changed. The young ruler who can answer every insult with fire is now learning to turn fire into strategy. This is where his kingship begins to mature. A warrior attacks the hand that strikes him. A sultan finds that mind behind that hand and destroy the entire game. In these sections of the story, the camera should stay close to Orhan's face. He says his eyes should carry the storm, but his voice should remain controlled. They must look like a man who has lost control. He must look like a man who had buried his pain deep enough to use it later. That is more powerful. That is powerful open range. When he speak of Boran, he should not speak only as a giving friend. He should speak the ruler of a people Who must understand that sacrifice will never be forgotten. Boran blood becomes a promise, not a reckless promise, but a scared one. The palace also becomes a place of emotional pressure. Marhan Hon feel the wound in a different way. For her, Boran death brings back every loss from the past. She has seen men ride out with prayers and return as bodies wrapped in clothes. She knows the cost of building state. When she looks at Orhan, she does not only see the Sultan, she sees a son standing dangerous close to the same darkness that swallows so many before him. He advised should be painful but necessary. A ruler may carry in private, but in front of the state he must become a mountain. Nilüfer and Sporka also feel the consequence of this death, but from different emotional positions. Nilüfer sees the wound in Orhan's heart and understands that the man she loves is being pulled away by duty. Sporka, surrounded by danger and political suspicions, become another part of the same fire. Her presence in Orhan's life is now tied to the palace balance, and every strategy around them make the balance more fragile. In a world where marriage is strategy and love is questioned, Boran death becomes more than a battlefield loss, it becomes a spark that can ignite every hidden rivalry inside the palace. The most important idea here is that Orhan must not avenge Boran by becoming smaller, he must avenge him by becoming greater. That is what the enemies do not accept. They accept anger, they expect choice, they expect a sultan running blindly toward the monastery, toward Ahimsa, toward every shadow that carries suspicions. But Orhan's answer should be sharper. He must make his enemies believe they are guide him while he is actually guiding them into their own destructions. And this is why the next stage of the story feels so powerful. Boran betrayal is not the end of loyalty. It is beginning of a reckoning. This death forces Orhan to rise above the pain of a friend and become the judge of a state. The audience must feel that from point onward Orhan is no longer fighting only to win battle. He is fighting to prove that no betrayal can break the foundation his father built, and no enemy can bury the future that is already waking under his rule. The monastery is not a shelter, it is a trap. When the trail leads to the monastery, the story enters a darker and more mysterious atmosphere. A monastery should be a palace of prayer, silence, and protection, but in this world, even holy wall can hide political poison. This is one of the strongest settings from drama because it creates a contrast between appearance and reality. Outside, the building may look peaceful. Inside, every corridor may hold a secret, every candle may light the face of a liar, every prayer may be covering a betrayal. For Orhan, entering that palace is not only a physical mission, it is a journey into the heart of the enemy deceptions. As Porca's presence inside the monastery makes the situation even more dangerous. She is not merely a woman waiting to be rescued, she is now a political key, a person whose survival or death can change the balance of the palace. If Orhan wakes her, some will say he risks too much for her. If he fails, enemies will use it to weaken his authority. If he delays, suspicions will grow. That is why the monastery missions become a perfect test. It forces Orhan to act quickly but not foolishly. It forces him to show courage but also intelligence. Fatma's role is tracing Asporka is important because it gives the story moment from inside the family. She is not only a sister or a side character, she becomes the one who follows the hidden thread when others are blinded by danger. In a powerful version of this scene, Fatma should not simply bring information, she should bring urgency. Her discovery should shake the room the moment she says, whereas Porca may be, every person should understand that time has become an enemy. The monastery is not a safe location on a map, it is a closing door. Oran's decisions to enter the monastery should not feel like simple heroism, it should feel like calculated risk. He knows the danger, he knows the enemy may be waiting, he knows the wall may become a death labyrinth, but he also knows that rulers who are afraid to step into danger lose the loyalty of those who followed them. His soldiers do not need a sultan who only gives order from behind curtain. They need a sultan who can stand at the front when the mission demands it. This is why Orhan's movement toward the monastery becomes symbolic. He is walking into darkness to prove that the state will not abandon its own inside the monastery. The script should also down the sound of footsteps, distant whisper, and doors closing behind the characters can create tension stronger than a battle scenes. Orhan should sense that something is wrong before the trap reveals itself. This would show his growth. He is no longer a man who only creates when swords are drawn. He reads the silence, he sees when fear is too perfectly hidden. He notices when a servant avoids his eyes, when a guard stands too still, when a prayer hall falls stands in sight of scared. These details turn him into a ruler who understands danger before danger speaks. The enemy plan should be layered. Perhaps they want Orhan inside the monastery not only to kill him but to blame him. Perhaps they want to create a scandal to the Sultan violated to a holy place. Perhaps they want to turn Christian subject against him or create unrest among those who already fear his rise. This would make the mission more serious. Orhan cannot simply fight his way out. He must escape without giving the enemy the political victory they are waiting for. This is exactly the kind of challenge that make a historical drama feel intelligent. As Porca's own reaction mattered too. She should not be helpless even if she is trapped. She must observe, resist, and understand part of the enemy plan. When Orhan reaches her, these should not be only emotional, it should be tense because both of them knows that refuses is only the first step. Getting out alive is harder. Getting out without damaging Orhan's political position is harder. Still, the conversation still should carry pressure. There is no time for long romantic speeches. A few sharp words, a look of relief, a warning whisper, a fear, and then the escape begins. The monastery sequence can become one of the most memorable part of the story because it brings together faith, fear, politics, and survival. Orhan must show respect for scared space while exposing those who have polluted it with authority that gives him moral power. He does not enter as a destroyer, he enters as a ruler, removing corruption from a palace that should never have been used from evil. This discussion matters. It shows that Orhan justice is not blind hatred, it is not disciplined justice. By the end of this section, Orhan should not only rescue a Sporka or survive the trap. He should uncover a larger designs. The monastery is not the final danger. It is a doorway. Behind it stand are deeper alliances, a hidden network, and a plan to turn every corner of the state against him. When Orhan leaves those walls, he should carry more than victory. He should carry proof that the enemy hand reaches much further than anyone imagined. The palace become a battlefield without sword, while Orhan moves while danger outside the palace itself becomes a battlefield without open combat. This is where Kurus Orhan can become truly gripping, because not every war needs horses, arrow, and shield. Some wars are fought with silence, some are fought through glances at the dinner table, some are fought by women who understand that a single sentence can destroy peace faster than an army. After Orhan made decisions, after Nulufar pain, after a Sporka rising place in the palace, the emotional balance of the household is no longer stable. Every room carries tension. Nilufar's struggle must be written with dignity. She should not be reduced to jealousy. Her pain is deeper than that. She is facing the reality that the man she loved belonged not only to her but to the state. This is the tragedy of loving a ruler, a simple man. Many chooses with his heart, but a sultan heart it tied to border alliance and survival. Nilufar knows this, but knowing does not remove the pain. She can understand the reason and still feel the wound that makes her human. The audience should not feel her as weak. They should see her as someone strong enough to stand while her heart is blessing beside tested in public. As Porca position is also complicated. She entered a palace everywhere smiles as a meaning and step in judge. If she speaks too softly, they may call herself false. If she speaks too strongly, they may call her arrogant. If she comes close to Orhan, she found Nilufar. If she stayed distant, people question the marriage. Her life became a narrow bridge. One wrong move and enemies will push her into darkness. This makes her a strong dramatic figure because she must survive not only external threat but the emotional politics of the palace. Orhan, caught between duty and emotion, become the center of this silent war. He cannot heal everyone with one speech. He cannot raise Nilufar pain by explaining politicals. He cannot protect Exporka by ignoring the feeling of the household. He must carry all of it. This is why palace scenes should be heavy. The audience should feel that sitting on the throne is sometimes harder than riding into battle on the battlefield. The enemy is clear. In the palace pain where the face of the people you love. Molhan Hond role become essential. She must keep the palace from breaking apart. She understands woman pain, political necessity, and the danger of emotional visions. Her wisdom can create some of the best dialogue in the series. She may tell Nilufar that love is not always made by possessions. She may tell a Sporka that entering a ruler house means carrying the weight of the state. She may tell Orhan that justice at home it is important and justice outside. Through Molhan, the palace gain moral balance, but enemy will not ignore this tension. A divided palace is not opportunity Despair can be planted, servant can be bowed, small misunderstanding can be shaped into major conflict. Someone may carry false word from Nilufar to Asporka or from Asporka to Nilufar. Someone may try to make Boran believe that one Boran woman is being used by the enemy. Someone may create a man where public shame become unvaluable. This is how palace conflict become dangerous. It does not need a sword, it needs timing. The strongest versions of the story line would allow Nilufar and Sporka to face each other not as enemy but as two women trapped by the same political machine. Their conflict may begin with pain, but it should be not remain simple rivalry. They both know Orhan is different way. They both understand sacrifice from different sides. They both are being watched, judged and used by others. If they eventually recognize this, the story becomes more mature. Instead of turning women into rivals only for drama, the script can show them as powerful figures learning how to survive a world designed to use their emotional as weapon. Orhan must also learn from this. If he cannot bring peace as his one palace, how can Phil bring order to conquer land? This question should haunt him. The palace become a small version of the state, different loyalties, different wounds, different expectations, and one ruler expected to hold them together. If he falls there, them enemy strongest outside the stronger. If he success, he proved that his leadership is not only military, it is human. By the end of section, the palace should feel like a candle bringing in a room full of wine. Everyone is trying to protect the flame, but even every hide hand thread to blow it out. The audience should not simply ask who Orhan will defend next. They should ask whether his own house can survive the pressure of destiny. Sahinsa's ambition and the poison of betrayal. Sahinsa is dangerous because he understands the language of power from the inside and outside. Attackers wall are traitors, attacks trust that make him more threatening than may open enemies. He knows the custom, he weakness, the pride of the bay and the emotional fault lines within the state. He does not need to invent every lie, he only need to twist exciting fear. This is why the ambitions carry poison. He is not simply trying to defeat Orhan, he is trying to convince others that Orhan's rise is dangerous for them. The more effective traitors rarely present themselves as traitors, they present themselves as protected. Sciences may speak of traditions, balance, and the right of the bay. He may say that he only wants to prevent Orhan from becoming too powerful. He may protect it that his opposition, not jealousy. This kind of enemy is powerful because some people may believe him. Not every supporter of sciences need to be evil. Some may be afraid, some may feel ignored, some may think Orhan is moving too quickly. Betrayal grows best within, hides inside legitimate corner. Orhan's challenge is not only to expose sciences but to understand why people listen to him. A ruler who only pushes traitor may miss the deeper wound. Why are curtains bare restless? Why do some tribal feel uncurtained? Why do old alliances shake whenever Orhan make a bold move? These questions matter. If Orhan answers them with arrogance. Sahinsas against strength. If he answers them with wisdom, he cut the roots of betrayal before cutting its branches. This is where the political writing should become sharp. Sahinsa should not be a simple villain who only laughs in darker room. He should speak with conviction. He should believe that tasks deserve more. He should see Orhan as young, emotional, and unworthy of absolutely loyalty. That does not make him right, but it makes him more interesting. A villain who believes his own arguments are always more dangerous than one knows he is evil eyes. The memory of Boran death add fuel to conflict. If Sahinsas has is connected to the tragedy other than Sahinsa's hand is connected to that tragedy, then Orhan revenge become personal. But even here Orhan must be careful. If he kills Sahinsas without proof, other way may fear him. If he waits too long, Sahinsas may strike again. This creates a tense middle path. Orhan must gather evidence, control emotion, and prepare a punishment that one can question. The audience should feel the pressure of patience. Sometimes the hardest thing of a hero is not attacking, he is waiting until justice becomes unable. Security reaction can add emotional fire. Boran Metroidum would wound him deeply. He may want immediate revenge. He may challenge Oran patient without distracting him. This creates strong character drama. Security represents the old warrior hurt, lawyer versus and unable to tolerate betrayal. Orhan represent the ruler, mind wounded but forced to think beyond one man. Anger, their disagreement can be powerful because both are right in different way. Security is right that betrayal must be answered. Orhan is right that the answer must strengthen the state, not weaken its. Sahinsas may also try to use the palace tension to his advantage. If he can connect Esporca presence, Nilufar Pain and Orhan political decisions into one narrative of instability, no can make the Sultan appear distracted. He can whisper that Orhan is no longer guided by the old case. He can't claim the palace is divided because Orhan has chosen foreign tie over triple unity. These lies are dangerous because they touch real emotions wound. That is how poison works. It does not need to create pain. It only needs to enter pain that already exists. The turning point should come when Orhan stop reacting to Sahinsas and begin setting trap for him. This is the moment of audience. This the Sultan growth. Orhan allows Sahinsas to believe he is winning. He gives him space to reveal his alliances. He let the traitors become confident, and when Sahinsas finally think the state is ready to crack, Orhan closes the circle. This kind of victory is more satisfying than a simple duel because it shows intelligence, patience, and command. Still, the story should not make betrayal despair too easily. If its Sahinsas is exposed, the damage remains. Trust once broken does not return in a day. Some may feel shame, some soldiers will feel anger, some families will mourn. Orhan must build what betrayal demanding. That is the true work of kingship. Punishing our traitors in one act, healing a state is lifetime. Bursa, the dream that refuses to fall. Bursa stand over the story like a promise waiting to be fulfilled. It is more than a city, it is the symbol of Osman Bey dream, Quran destiny, and the future shape of the state. Every road seems to lead back to Bursa. Every alliance, every betrayal, every sacrifice becomes connected to that great goal. If Boran takes Bursa, he does not simply win a city. He proved that the frontier state has become a power that can no longer be ignored. The beauty of Bursa as a dramatic object is that he cannot be conquered only by force. Its walls may be strong, but its people are just as important. A ruler can break it if built cannot withhold. But his people are just as important. A ruler can break gates, but if he cannot win her, the victory remains incomplete. This is where Orhan difference must shine. He should not only think like a commander surrounding a city, he must think like a ruler preparing to govern it after the conquest. What happened to the people inside? What happened to trade? What happened to crashes, markets, families, farmers, craftsmen, and children who feared the arm outside? These questions separate conquest from statecraft. Orhan's earlier act of mercy towards civilians, his understanding of public suffering, and his desire to build order should all connect to Bursa. The enemy may try to portray him as destroyed, but Orhan must show that his rule brings stability. This does not mean to become soft. It means his strength has purpose. The sword opens the road, but justice keeps the road safe. If the series emphasizes this, Bursa becomes not only a military prize but a moral test. Byzantine side understand Bursa important. Takfur, Saros, and other knows that losing Bursa would be more than losing land. It would be losing prestige, security, and physiological control. For years they may have believed the Turk could threaten, raid, and pressure, but not fully inherit the future. Bursa challenges that belief. It tells the old power that a new order is coming. That is why they fight so desperately. They are not defending only stone walls, they are defending the illusions that history will belongs to them. Inside Bursa, the people should be divided. Some fear Orhan, some secretly hope for change, some are loyal to the Takfur because they know nothing else, some are tied to taxes, war, hunger, and arrogance. This human complexity makes the city feel alive instead of being only a castle to capture. Bursa becomes a society waiting to decide whom its trust. Orhan must understand this. Every act he take outside the walls sends a messages inside them. Every prisoner he scribes, every innocent he protects, every promise he keeps become part of this sign. The enemy may try to sabotage this trust. They may stage attack and blame Orhan. They may punish civilians who show sympathy. They may spread rumors that the Turk will destroy everything. This creates a war of prescriptions. Orhan must win not only with soldiers but with truth. He must show the people of Bursa that the fear they have been felt in a weapon used against them. This is also where spiritual language entered the story. For Orhan, Bursa is tied to destiny, but destiny does not mean age. Destiny demands patience. His father dreamed of it, but Orhan must pay the price for it. He may stand before the city at night, remembering Osman's word, and understand that he is not only completing a conquest, he is carrying a father unfinished breath. This emotional connection gives Bursa power. The audience knows that when Orhan looks at those walls, he seems more than stone, he seems Osman by eyes. The sign of Bursa should grow slowly like thunder gathering behind mountain. Every episode can behind mountain, every episode can bring one step closer. A hidden gate A secret ally, a food crisis, a political crack, a betrayal inside the city, a desperate move by Saros, a dangerous plan by Flavius, a sacrifice by Oran. Closest man, the final conquest will feel earned only if the road is painful. Victory without hardship is forgettable. Bursa must demand blood, patience, and wisdom. By the end of this section, the audience should feel that the conquest of Bursa is inevitable but not easy. The city is resisting, the enemy is preparing, the palace stands, and Orhan is crying grief from Boran Mitroidum. Yet all of these pressure are shaping him. Bursa will not fall to a young man chasing glory, it will fall to a sultan who has learned pain, mastered anger, and understood that a state is built not for one victory but for centuries. Orhan's name began to belong to history. The most powerful part of Orhan's journey is that he is slowly moving from being a character inside history to becoming history himself. At first, people may speak of him as Osman Bey's son, then they speak of him as a brave commander, then they speak of him as Sultan, but eventually, if he survives betrayal, grief, love, war, and political storm, they will speak of him as the man who carried the dream forward when it could have collapsed. That is the transformation the series is now building. Every great ruler has a moment when the people stop seeing him as a promise and begin seeing him as reality. For Orhan, that moment is approaching. Boran Metroidum tests his heart, the monastery tests his courage and intelligence, the palace tests his emotional justice, Sciences tests his political strength, Bursa tests his destiny. These are not separate storylines, they are different fires shaping the same world. Orhan is being forgotten by every enemy and every wound. The final stone of this next phase should be grand but personal. The audience should feel the size of the state rising, but they should never lose the human pain under it. It Orhan may stand before armies, but he is also a man who has lost friends. He may make political marriages, but he is also a man whose heart is not free. He may punish traitors, but he is also a man who knows that every punishment creates new cards. This mixture is what makes him compelling. Perfect horses become distant, wounded leaders feel real. Nilufar's role in these transformations remain deeply emotional. She may not always agree with Orhan's choices, but she understands the burden behind them. Her pain does not despair, and its good should not despair too quickly. Strong drama allows one to breathe. It Nilufar forgives too easy. The story becomes shallow. If she remains only angry, the story becomes respective. The best path is growth. She begins in pain, move through silence, watches Orhan carry the state, and slowly understand that love in this world must become larger than personal desire. That does not mean she loses herself, it means she becomes stronger. As Porka's future also carries importance, her marriages to Orhan may begin as strategy, but strategy can become destiny. She must decide who she will be inside this world. Will she remain a political symbol, or will she become a woman with her own influence? Will she be used by others, or will she learn to use the rules of the palace of protect herself and the state? Her journey can add depth in. She is allowed to become more than a skewer of conflict, a palace with two powerful women does not need to be a palace of endless rivalry. It can become a palace where pain eventually turns into political wisdom. Security after Boran's death became the emotional voice of all loyalty. His grief should not hidden weepers who followed the older saga need to feel that the past still matters. Boran Metroidum must echo across the story, not vanished after one episode. When security fight again, his sword should carry memory. When he laugh again, it should feel like them. The enemies may try to sabotage this trust. They may stage attack and blame Orhan. They may punish civilians who show sympathy. They may spread rumors that the truth will destroy everything. This creates a war of prescriptions. Orhan must win is not only with soldiers but with truth. He must show the people of Bursa that the fear they have been fed is a weapon used against them. This is also where spiritual language enters the story for Orhan. Bursa is tied to destiny, but destiny does not mean ease. Destiny demands patience. His father dreamed of it, but Orhan must pay the price for it. He may stand before the city at night, remembering Osman's word and understand that he is not only completing a conquest, he is carrying a father unfinished faith. This emotional connection gives Bursa power. The audience knows that when Orhan looks at those walls, he sees more than stone. He sees Osman Bey eyes. The sign of Bursa should grow slowly like thunder gathering behind mountain. Every episode can bring one step closer. A hidden gate, a secret alley, a food crisis, a political crack, a betrayal inside the city, a desperate move by Saros, a dangerous plan by Flavius, sacrifice by Orhan's closest man. The final conquest will feel earned only if the road is painful. Victory without hardship is forgettable. Bursa must demand blood, patience, and wisdom. By the end of this section, the audience should feel that the conquest of Bursa is inevitable but not easy. The city is resisting, the enemy is preparing, the palace is tense, and Orhan is carrying grief from Boran Metroidum. Yet all of these pressures are shaping him. Bursa will not fall to a young man chasing glory, it will fall to a sultan who has learned pain, mastered anger, and understood that a state is built not one for victory but for centuries. Orhan's name begins to belong to history. The most powerful part of Orhan's journey is that he is slowly moving forward, being a character inside history for becoming history himself. At first, people may speak of him as Osman's son. Then they speak of him as brave commander. Then they speak of his sultan. But eventually, if he survives betrayal, grief, love, war, and political storm, they will speak of him as the man who carried the dream forward when it could have collapsed. That is the transformation the series is now building. Every great ruler has a moment when the people stop seeing him as a promise and begin seeing him as reality. For Orhan, that moment is approaching. Boran Metroidum tests his heart, the monastery tests his courage and intelligence, the palace tests his emotional justice, Sciences tests his political strength, Bursa tests his destiny. These are not separate storylines, they are story different parts shaping the same sword. Boran is being foraged by every enemy and every wound. The final tone of this next phase should be grand. but personal. The audience should feel the size of the state rising, but they should never lose the human pain underneath it. Orhan may stand become armies, but he is also a man who has lost friend. He may make political marriage, but he is also a man whose heart is not free. He may punish traitors, but he is also a man who knows that every punishment creates new scares. This mixture is what makes him complaining perfect hero become distant. Wounded leaders feel their needful role in these transformations. Remain deeply emotional. She may not allow agree with her own choices, but she understands the burden being them. Her pain does not disappear, and it should not disappear too quickly. Strong drama allows one to beneath it. Nilufer forgives too easily. The story becomes shallow. If she remains only angry, the story becomes repetitive. The best path is growth. She begins in pain, move through silence, watches Orhan carry the state, and slowly understand that the love in this world must become larger than personal desire. That does not mean she loses herself, it means she becomes stronger. As Polka future also carries important. Her marriage to Orhan may begin as strategy, but strategy can become destiny. She must decide who she will be inside this world. Will she remain a political symbol, or will she become a woman with her own influence? Will she be used by others, or will she learn to use the rules of the palace to protect herself and the state? Her journey can add depth if she is allowed to become more than a source of conflict. A palace with two powerful women does not need to be a palace of endless rivalry. It can become a palace where pain eventually turns into political wisdom. Security after Boran's death become the emotional voice of all loyalty. His grief will not be hidden. Viewers who follows the older saga need to feel that the past still matters. Boran Metroidum must echo across the story, not vanished after one episode. When security fight again, this war should carry memory. When he laugh again, it should feel hurt, and when he stand beside Orhan, the audience should feel that the old generation has not disappeared. It has placed its remaining strength behind the new Sultan. The enemies meanwhile should grow more desperate. One of them, Asporka's future also carries importance. Her marriage to Orhan may begin as strategy, but strategy can become destiny. She must decide who she will be inside this world. Will she remain a political symbol, or will she become a woman with her own influence? Will she be used by others, or will she learn to use the rulers of the palace to protect herself and the state? Her journey can add to depth if she is allowed to become more than a source of conflict. A palace with two powerful women does not need to be a palace of endless rivalry. It can become a palace where pain eventually turns into political wisdom. Security after Boran's death become the emotional voice of all loyalty. His grief should not be hidden. Viewers who follows the old saga need to feel that the past still matters. Boran Metroidum must echo across the story, not vanished after one episode. When security fight again, his sword should carry memory. When he laugh again, it should feel headline. When the hand beside Orhan, the audience should feel that the old generation has not disappeared. It has balanced its remaining strength behind the new Sultan. The enemies meanwhile should grow more desperate. Once they realize Orhan is not broken by grief, they will fear him more. Once they see that palace tension has not destroyed him. They will search for darker method. One day understand the Bursa is still in this side. They will attempt one final great move. This is where the next episode can build toward a massive turning point. The enemy greatest mistake by the believing that Boran won't make him weaker. In truth, they are making him sharper. The final image of 6 sections continuation should be Boran standing before the future with pain behind him and fire ahead of him. He is not smiling. He is not a moment of easy victory. It is a moment of decisions. He knows the cost now. He knows that every step toward Bursa will bring another loss, another betrayal, another test. But he also knows that turning back should betray everyone who died believing in the dream. And so Orhan moved forward not as a boy carrying his father's name, not as a commander chasing fame, not as a man controlled by love and revenge. He moved forward as a sultan who has finally understood the truth of power. A state is not built by those who never suffer, but by those who suffer and still choose order, cover, choice, justice over age, and destiny over fear. The coming storm will be brutal. The palace will shake again. The monastery secret will open new door of danger. Sainsa's poison will not disappear without leaving marks. Bursa will demand a price from evil soul that dream of entering it. But from this point onward, on truth becomes clear. Orhan Bey is no longer waiting for history to accept him. He is facing history of make room for his name. The fire around Evron, the story now moves into a darker road because his that surround everyone is not only a physical flame, it is a symbol of how far the enemies of Orhan are willing to go. Yigit trap is not simply an act of revenge, it is a message. He wants Orhan people to understand that loyalty to the Sultan has a price and that everyone standing beside Orhan can be burdened, broken, or used as bait. This is why the danger around everyone become more than one man's survival. It become a test for the entire state. Fatma presence make this sense even more painful. She is not watching a distance. Soldiers fall. She is watching someone close to her begin punished toward death while she stands helpless before cruelty. This is the kind of moment that changes our character forever. Fatma can no longer remain only a brave daughter of a powerful house. She is now being forced to understand the cost of political hatred with her own eyes. The flames in front of her are also burning away. Whatever innocence remains inside her for Orhan. News of everyone suffering become another wound after Boran betrayed but this wound is different. Boran death created give everyone danger. One loss has already happened, another may still be preventive. The palace Boran in a cruel position. He must move fast, but if he moves without thinking, he may enter another trap. He didn't want emotion to become Boran's weakness. He wanted the Sultan to abandon patient and run toward the fire like a giving brother inside of a calculating ruler. This is where Orhan growth must be shown clearly. The younger Orhan may have charged forward immediately. The Orhan we are seeing now must do something harder. He must feel everything but reveal almost nothing. He must let the enemy believe he is a shaken while secretly preparing the answer that is a true command. The audience should feel that Boran is becoming dangerous not because he is louder than before, but because he is quieter than expected. The rescue of Evian should not be written as a simple heroic entrance. It should feel like a race against death where every second matters. The smoke rises, the enemy waits. Fatima struggle between fear and defenses, and somewhere beyond the choice, Oran plan begin to close around. Yet if everyone survive, it should not feel easy. He must come out changing, wounded or marked by the security of the enemy. If he falls, then his martyrdom will become another spark of that pushes Oran toward a greater rocking and ether way. The fire must leave a scare on the story. The strongest emotional angle is this: Yigit think he is burning one man, but he may actually be burning the last bridge between himself and Mercury. They are crimes that can still be judged with restraint, and there are crimes that force a ruler to answer with the full weight of the state. By targeting Ibyor and Fatima, Yigit has crossed into a place where forgiveness becomes almost impossible. Oran may still act with justice, but that justice will no longer be soft. Fatma's pain becomes her awakening. Fatma's journey becomes more important after the trap because pain has now entered her life in a direct and unforgettable way. Before this, she may have understood danger through stories, warning, and the experience of others. Now she has sees it with her own eyes. She has heard the crackles of fire, felt the helplessness of being too late, and understood the enemy does not always attack armies first. Sometimes they attack the heart. This is where Fatma can become one of the strongest emotional voices in the series. She should not be written only as someone who carries after tragedy. Her grief must become movement, her fear must become sharpness. The same word that tried to make her a witness to helplessness should now create a woman who refuses to remain helpless again. That transformation would give the story a powerful new layer. When Fatma returned to the palace, she should not return as the same person who left. Mulhan Horn should understand it first because mother can read pain before it becomes word. Horan should also see it, but he may not have time to comfort her properly, and that itself becomes tragic. A ruler family suffers because the ruler belongs to the state before the belongs to his own house. Fatma pain can also affect Orhan deeply. He is not only protecting order and castle, he is protecting the people whose eyes still look to with his truth. When Fatma suffers, Orhan sees the cost of every delay. When Alrons burn, Orhan sees the enemy cruelty. When Boran dies, Orhan sees the price of loyalty. These events together turn his leadership from duty into something personal. The danger is that personal pain can good judgment. The opportunity is that personal pain can make justice stronger. Fatma's next move should be quiet, be meaningful. She may begin listening or more carefully in the palace. She may notice whisper other ignore. She may become a bridge between the emotional world of the woman and the political world of Usman. Orhan caught in historical drama. Power does not always sit on the throne. Sometimes power moves through corridors, through servants, through women chamber, through conversations that man underestimate. Fatma can become dangerous because enemies may not yet understand her value. Her relationship with Evron's also her dramatic power. If he survives, he will stand between them like a memory. Neither can escape. Every Fatma's time sees his found. He will remember the moment she almost lost him every time everyone looked at her. He will remember that she witnessed his pain. That kind of shared trauma can create deep loyalty, but it can also create fear. They may avoid speaking of it, yet it will remain present in every scene. The purpose of Fatma are should not be revenge alone. Revenge can begin the journey, but it should not end it. Her real growth is understanding that courage is not only fighting with a sword. Courage can be patient, courage can be observations, courage can be surviving grief without letting it poison your soul. If we series give Fatma this path, she can become one of the most emotionally rich characters in Oran world. Gonka hold between life and death, while the outside world burned with trap and revenge. The palace faces another kind of battlefield. Birth Gonka horn, difficult delivery brings life and death into the same room, and this contract is powerful. Outside men fight to kill, inside women fight to bring life into the world. The tension is different, but the danger is just as real. A sword can take a life in a second, but childbirth can become a silent war, lasting horror with every breath, carrying fear. Aladdin's position in this moment is deeply emotional. He is not standing before an enemy he can defeat, he is standing before fate. He may be a man of knowledge, strength, and noble blood, but none of that control. What happened in that room. This helplessness is important. It shows that even powerful men can be reduced to prayers when the person then love is between life and death. The birth scene should not be rushed. It must carry weight. The palace women move with urgency. Molhan Horn tries to keep order. Nilüfer and Sporka, despite their own tension, may find themselves standing on the same side for a moment. Aladdin's position is the moment deeply emotional. He is not understanding between before enemy he can defeat. He is standing before fate, but no one of that controlled what happened is that room. This helplessness is important. It shows that even powerful can man can reduce to prayer when the person the love is between life and death. The birth scene should not be rushed. It must carry weight. The palace women move with urgency. Monan Hort tries to keep order. Nilüfer and Sporka, despite their with other tension, men find themselves standing on the same side for a moment. Because birth silence rivalry when life is at risk, palace politicals become small. This could be a beautiful moment where women divided by emotional wound are forced to remember their shared humanity. Gonka's struggle also mirror to the state itself. A new life is trying enter the world, while enemies outside try to destroy the future. This is the deeper meaning of the sense. The childbirth is not only a family event, it is a symbol of continuity. Enemies may burn barriers, kill loyal men, and set traps, but the bloodline continues. The state continued life answer death. If Gonka survives, her survival becomes a victory as meaningful as the battlefield triumphed. Gonka's struggle also mirrored the state itself. A new life is trying to enter the world while enemies outside try to destroy the future. This is the deeper meaning of the sense that childbirth is not only a family event, it is a symbol of continuity. Enemies may burn berries, kill loyal men and set trap, and the bloodline continue life answer death. If Gonka survive, his survival become a victory as meaningful as any battlefield trump. If the child survives, the palace gain a moment of hope in the middle of darkness. But if the story chooses strategy, then it must be handled with dignity. Aladdin receiving one life while losing another would be devastating, and it would add a heavy emotional scars to the family. Other path can work, but the key is emotional truth. For Orhan, this moment matters because he is reminded that his decisions do not only affect soldiers, they affect families, unborn children, mother, and the future of the dynasty. A ruler may speak of conquest, but conquest means nothing if the people inside the palace are breaking. This is why the birth storyline connects to his leadership. He must build a state where life can continue despite war. The palace after Gonka delivery should feel change if there is joy, if it should be fragile joy, if there is mourning, it should be quiet and heavy. Either way, the event forces everyone to remember that destiny is not only written in battles, sometimes destiny is written in a room where a woman fight for one more breath. Nilufar's silence is not weakness. Nilufar haunts silence after the palace. Tension should not be misunderstood. She is not silent because she has nothing to say. She is silent because every word she speaks can be used against her. In other Orhan palace, his pain is not private. If Nilufar shows anger, enemies will call her jealous. If she knows sadness, they will call her broken. If she knows patience, they will call her defeated. This is the cruel trap of being close to power. Her emotional journey is one of the most delicate part of the story. She loves Orhan, but she must now live with the truth that Orhan's life is not his own. His marriages, his alliances, his movement, and even his kindness may carry political meaning for Nilufar. This is not simply a romantic wound, it is an identity crisis. She must ask herself whether love can survive when it is forced to share space with duty. The best version of Nilufar is not a woman who begs for attention. She should be written as woman who watch, understand, and slowly decide what kind of power she will hold. Her pain can become dignity, her dignity can become influence. She may command rhymes, but she can influence the heart of the palace. She can become the person who understands Orhan's burden when others will only judge his choice. Her tension with the Sporka should also become more mature. At first, pain naturally creates distance. Nilufar may look at a Sporka and see the symbol of everything she lost. A Sporka may look at Nilufar and see a woman whose palace in Orhan her she can never fully replace. This is painful for both of them, but the story becomes stronger if they slowly understand that neither is the true enemy. The real enemy is the political world that uses women hurt as tool. Nilufar's silence can become dangerous to those who understand her. While others speak loudly, she listens. While others react emotionally, she collects. truth. She may notice who enters the Sporka chamber, who carries messages, who spread rumors, and who benefit from divisions. In time, Nilüfer could become the one who uncovers a hidden betrayal inside the palace that would transfer her pain into purpose. Orhan must also learn to read Nilüfer correctly. He may believe that silence means acceptance, but silence can hide a storm. If he ignores her pain, he risks losing not only her trust but also a key emotional anchor in his life. A sultan can make many advisors, but very few people can speak to his soul. Nilüfer is one of those people. If he loses that connection, he becomes more alone. The realize Nilüfer are should not be about winning Orhan back from anyone. It should be about becoming powerful within herself. That is what makes her complaining. Love may wound her, but it should not define her completely. She can love Orhan and still demand respect. She can suffer and still remains wise. She can be silent and still be one of the strongest presence in the palace. Sporka and Orhan harsh confrontations. The confrontations between Orhan and Sporka after the ministry escape is important because it exposes the uncomfortable truth of their relationship. Their bond is not born from peace, it is born from danger, political pride, and misunderstanding. Orhan tells her in essence that she must understand her palace as his haunt, but beneath that harshness lies a deeper conflict. He is not only speaking to Sporka, he is speaking to the choice around him. Sporka escape. She already shaken the palace. Nilüfer and Gonka react strongly. Mulhan tries to hold balance. Orhan decisions to go after Sporka deepens the fracture. That means Sporka is now standing at the center of a storm she did not fully create but must still survive. Her confrontations with Orhan should therefore not be written as simple obedience versus authority. It should be two wounded people arguing inside a political cage. Orhan is angry because Sporka action creates danger. Sporka is angry because she feels controlled by a world that speaks about the future without always hearing her voice. Both carry truth. That is why their scenes can be powerful. If Orhan is only harsh, the sense become cold. If Sporka is only rebellious, the sense becomes shallow. The strongest version is when both are right and wrong at the same time. The possible spark of love between them must be handled carefully. It should not erase the pain of Nilüfer or reduce Sporka to a certain romance. Instead, it should grow fear, conflict, respect, and shared danger. Orhan may begin to see that Sporka is not merely a political figure. Sporka may begin to see that Orhan's harshness comes from the crushing weight of rule, not simple purity. This does not excuse every word, but it makes the connection more complex. Their relationship can become one of the most dramatic tension in the series because it threatens balance while also offering Orhan a different kind of partnership. Sporka may challenge him in a way others do not. She may refuse to. Often, however, she may force him to see the human cost of decision he calls necessary. That kind of tension can create powerful storyline telling if it grows slowly, but Oran must be careful every step toward Asporka affect Nilufer. Every defense of Asporka can be read as betrayal by others. Every moment of closeness becomes of every even harsh argument can be interpreted by the end of this section. The audience should not be a section. The audience fully curtain, fully Orhan and Asporka stand. They should feel the tension but also the danger. They should understand that this relationship may either strengthen Orhan's future or fracture this palace future. That curtain keep viewers hooked. The state stand on a knife edge at this point in the story. Everything around Orhan is balanced on a around Oran is knife edge. Boran Bemetroidum has opened the warrant of revenge. If beyond order has shows the enemy security. Fatma's pain has created a new emotional force. Gonka first birth has palace life and death inside the palace. Nilufer's silence hide a storm. Asporka confrontations with Orhan has deepened the palace fractures, and above all of this, the 24th episode direction promises that the next storm will not be small. This is where the series becomes larger than one battle. Orhan is no longer forcing insulated events. He is facing connected pressure from every side. His enemies attack his varies, his family, his palace, his alliances, and his emotional balance. They know that if they cannot defeat it in open war, they can try to make his own world collapse. His family, his palace, his alliances, and the emotional balance. They know that if they cannot defeat him open war, they can try to make his own world collapse around him. That is the true pain. Orhan answer must now be different from anything has done before. He cannot only punish, he must organize. He cannot only rescue, he must prevent. He cannot only react, he must lead the story before these enemies write it from his. This is the moment where a sultan either become the master of events or become their victim. The next phase could show Orhan gathering every broken piece and turning it into strength. Boran memory becomes motivation. Evion's suffering becomes proof of enemy security. Fatma witness became intelligence. Nilufar's silence became hidden wisdom. Asporka positions become a political test. Molhan balance become the pillar holding the palace together. Even grief become a rescue when a greatest ruler know how to carry it. The enemies believe Orhan is surrounded by weakness. They see pain and think, I think collapse. But Orhan must be careful every step toward Asporka affect Nilufar. Every defense of Asporka can be read as betrayal by other. Every moment of closeness becomes material of palace enemies. This is why love is Orhan. World is never simple when even a glance can become political evidence. Even a rescue can become a scandal. Even a harsh argument can be interrupted as hidden passions. By the end of this section, the audience should not be fully curtained. Where Orhan and Sportka stand, they should feel the tension but also the danger. They should understand that this relationship may either strengthen or harm future or fracture his palace future. That currently keeps viewers hooked. The state stands on a knife edge. At this point is the story. Everything around Orhan is balancing on a knife edge. Boran by Metroidum has opened the wound of revenge. Every order has shown the enemy curative. Fatma's pain has created a new emotional force. Fatma pain has created a emotional force. Gonka birth has palace life and death. Inside the palace, Nilufar's silence hide a storm. Asporka confrontations with Orhan has deepened the palace fracture, and above all of this, the 24 episode directions promises are fate. The Kipek's choice their side, the storm around Sultan Orhan is no longer limited to the palace, the monastery, or the battlefield. Now the wind returning toward the tribe, and this is where the real political game begins, where the knaps choose a side. They are not simply ending warrior to one army or another. They are changing the balance of fear, truth, and ambitions across the frontier. Every tribe watching Orhan now asks the same question: as this young sultan still strong enough to command loyalty, or has grief, palace tension, and betrayal weakened his hand? This is the moment where Orhan must understand something very important. A ruler does not only win loyalty through blood, he wins loyalty through certainty. Tribes follow the man who looks like tomorrow. They may respect the past, they may remember Orhan Bey, they may hold old oath, but in the end they move toward the power that seems most likely to survive. That is why the Kipkaks matter so much. Their decision is not only military, it is physiological. If they stand with Orhan, other doubtful heart may become firm. If they stand against him, hidden enemies will become brave. Sahinsas and his allies understand this matter than anyone. They know that open war with Orhan may be costly, but turning tribe away from him cloud damage him more deeply. A ruler can replace lost soldiers, but lost confidence spread like sickness. One way hesitates, another way whisper, a third way delays sending men, and suddenly the state begin to shake without a single wall falling. This is the position of political. If does not kill quickly, if weakness the body from within. Orhan answer must be different from ordinary force. If the hardness every tribe he became the titan his enemies describe. If he begged for loyalty, he looked weak. If he ignorance the issue, betrayal grows. So he must walk the narrow path of true leadership. He must show strength without arrogance, patience without fear, and mercury without softness. This is why his meeting with the Kipeks should not be tense, quiet, and dangerous. Every word must feel like a blade placed on the table. The damsel should not be shown at simple opportunities. They are people with their own wound, fear, and interest. They have watches powerful men rise and fall. They know promise can be broken. They may admire or harm, but admiration is not enough when families, land, and future are at stake. Their leader may ask Orhan a question that cuts deeper than any insult. If we stand with you today, will stand with us when your throne is safe? That is the kind of question a sultan must answer, not with poetry but with truth. Oran's strength is this moment should come from the honesty. He cannot promise a world without war. He cannot promise that no one will die. He cannot promise that every tribe will always be pleased, but he can promise justice. He can promise order. He can promise that those who stand with the state will not be forgotten when victory comes. That is what separates him from men like Sahinsas. Sahinsas offers advantage, Oran offers future. By the end of this section, the cap's joy should feel and they full join Oran or stand beside him with condition. The decisions must need a message across the land. The young sultan is no insulated. His enemies try to use Boran death, Evron's suffering, the palace division as proof of weakness, but now in front of the tribe, Orhan began to turn everyone into authority. The keepers do not choose him because his life is easy. They choose him because he remaining standing while everything burns. Orhan gains inside the monastery. The monastery is still because it's not only a palace where a sporka was hidden, it is a symbol of the enemy's favorite weapon. Desperation swapped his whole lines. A palace built for prayer has been turned into a trap, and that insult is not small. For Orhan, exposing the game inside the monastery is not only about saving one person, it is about proving that his enemies are willing to use faith. Fear and scared was too many future choice. This is where Orhan intelligence must shine brighter than his sword. Anyone can storm a building with soldiers. Anyone can broke doors, question, smoke, size, suspect, and leave behind fears. But the sultan who wants to rule different palace cannot. This is where Orhan intelligence must shine brighter than a sword. Anyone can shine brighter than a sword. Anyone can storm a building with soldiers. Anyone can break doors, question, mock. But a sultan who wants to rule different people cannot act like a destroyer of holy place. His enemies are watching for exactly that mistake. They want him to enter angrily. They want witnesses to say the violence of monastery. They want Christians villagers to fear that his rule before he even reaches Bursa. They want to turn justice into propaganda. So Orhan must enter the monastery with a game of his own. He cannot say only search for a sporka. He must search for the trap behind the trap. He must discover who gave order, who carried messages, who opened hidden passages, and who planned to beat him afterward. This kind of storyline gives him as a different kind of power. He becomes not only a warrior sultan but a ruler who understands the throne of politicals. He knows his enemies are not only fighting with steel, they are taking sense of the world to believe. Inside those walls every object can become evidence. A max seal hidden under cloth, a half-burned letter near a candle, a servant who knows too much But fear speaking a mock whose hands shake when Orhan mentions Hingsa's passage beneath the prayer, all leading toward the forest. These details make the monastery feel alive and dangerous. Orhan should move through it slowly, not because he is afraid, not because he understands that hate is exactly what the enemy expects. As Porca's role in this discovery must also matter. He may remember a voice symbol, a voice of smoke, a perhaps spoken, or a memory became the thread that pulls the enemy mask away. This word makes the more than a rescue figure. He becomes part of the investigation. Orhan must recognize that her recognize has value. The strongest moment would come when Orhan realized the monastery was never meant to the Sporka prisons alone. It was meant to become his political grave. If the field of rescue her, he would look weak. If he rescued her violently, he would look curled. If he ignored her, the palace would turn against him. If he entered blindly, he could be killed. The strongest moment would come when Orhan realized the monastery was never meant to the Sporka prisons alone. It was meant to become in political grave. If he failed to rescue her, he would look weak. If he rescued her voluntarily, he would look cruel. If he ignored her, his palace would turn against him. If he entered blindly, he could be killed. Every path was designed to damage him. That is when Orhan understands the enemy is no longer playing small games. His presence must be brilliant instead of falling into the story. He writes his own, he protects the innocent inside the monastery, he separates the guilty of the fearful, he shows repeat of the scared space while exposing those who abuse it. Then the leave not with destructions behind him but with proof it in his mind. That is a victory for character that will killing a few guards. It is the victory of the trust over manipulation. When Orhan returned from the monastery, he is not the same man who entered. He has learned that the war ahead will be fought in front of witness. Rumors and frightening communiques. If he wants Bursa, he cannot only defeat walls, he must defeat lies. And now, with the monastery game uncovered, he began to understand how deeply the enemy feared the future too. He represents a beyond between smoke and destiny. A beyond fate now becomes one of the emotional centers of the story. The question of whether he will survive the fire is not only about one warrior life, it is about what kind of messages the enemy's success is sending. If Ebron dies his flame, the enemy hopes terror will spread. If he survives, then the same fire becomes a symbol of ensure that this is why the storyline must be treated with weight. He cannot simply be rescued and return unchanged. Fire leaves marks even when it does not kill. If Evian survives, his silence afterward should be more powerful than any speech. A man who has faced burning does not immediately return to laughter. He carries the smell of smoke in the memory. He wakes at night, hearing the crackle of wood. He sees Fatima frightening face again and again. His body may heal, but his spirit must fight its own battle. This is where the drama becomes human. Viewers do not connect only with victory, They cannot with the cost of survival. Fatma reaction of Ipion. Suffering depends on emotion story. She may try to be strong in front of others, but when she sees his wound, his courage may break for a moment. This does make her weak, it makes her real. Love, loyalty, and fear becomes mixed inside her. She may blame herself for not doing more. She may blame Orhan enemies. She may even blame the endless political gain that pull innocent heart near such security, but eventually her pain must become resolved. Evian, however, may not want pity. That creates tension, wounded warriors often fear begins seen as broken. He may push Fatma away because he does not want her to remember him to helplessness. Fatma may refuse to leave because she knows strength is not always standing alone. Their sense can become deeply emotional if they avoid modern drama and force on quiet truth. A hand reaching for another hand, a silence that say more than a confession. A wound begin clean while neither person knows how to speak or Orhan if beyond survival to suffering become a command lesson. He sees what his enemies are waiting to do to men loyal to him. He also sees that loyalty is not free. Every soldier who rides under his banners risk not only death but torture, trap, and humiliation. A lesser ruler might respond by becoming paranoid. A greater ruler responds by becoming more responsible. Orhan must now improve not only revenge but protection. His state cannot survive if loyalty becomes a road to abandonment. This is where Orhan may create a new plan. He may place hidden guard around him messenger. He may change how information moves through the palace and tribes. He may stop letting enemies predict his reaction. In this way. Evian pain becomes a structural turning point. A strategy teaches the state how to defend itself better. Jigid, if he behind it curative, must also face any consequence beyond simple punishment. Orhan should make him understand that fire did not frighten the state, it reveals the enemy. Coward burning a trapped man is not bravery. Threatening Fatma is not victory. Cruelty can create fear, but it also creates hatred. Hatred can unite people faster than speeches. Yigit may think the create terror. In truth, it may have created the unity Orhan needed. By the end of this section, Ipion should stand as a symbol whether begins weakened or silent. His presence tells the people that the enemy fire failed to urge him, and even if he cannot yet fight, his survival becomes a battle standard. The enemy used blame to break the spirit of Orhan house. Instead, house flames now light the road toward revenge. Justice, our greatest war, the council of broken trust. After so many trapped depth and hidden moves, Orhan and that must gather responsive. This sense should not feel routine, it should feel like a room full of people who all knows that truth has become dangerous. Every way enter with his own tough Some are loyal, some uncertain, some angry, some afraid. Grief like a weapon. Mohan carries wisdom like a shield. Nilufer carries silence like a secret. Asporka carries the weight of suspicion. Fatma carries the memory of fire. Orhan carries all of them at once. The council is where the state speaks to itself. Outside enemies may believe Orhan people are divided. Inside Orhan must discover whether that division is real or not only noise. He cannot simply demand unity. Unity demanded by force is fear. Real unity must be rebuilt through truth. So Orhan should begin not with a command but with a confession. The enemy has reached too close. Boran is gone. Everyone was nearly taken. Asporka was used. Fatma was hurt. The palace is tense. The tribe was watching. This is not weekend to admit. It is leadership to name the wound. Then the argument begins. Security may demand immediate blood, and other pay advice. Question a third may vary about the cheapest. Someone may question whether Asporka's presence has brought too much instability. Someone else may want that Nilufer pain is becoming known outside the palace. Every issue comes to the surface. This is uncomfortable but necessary. A council that only prizes the Sultan. A true council must trust the ruler without breaking loyalty. Orhan's task is listen without appearing uncertain. This is difficult if he silences everyone too quickly. Resentment grows if he allows too much argument. Authority weakness. He must control the room with calm. He must let each person speak enough to reveal their mind, then pull all those structures fear towards one decision. This is where we see whether he is truly becoming Sultan. The most dramatic moment could come when someone indirectly questions Orhan's judgment because of his emotional rise. Perhaps they say the enemy knows exactly where to strike because the palace has become distracted. Perhaps they say the marriage has created opening. Perhaps they say Orhan's heart is being used against the state. This line could cut deeply because there is some truth hidden inside it. Orhan may feel anger, but he cannot reject the concern blindly. A ruler must be strong enough to her pain. Nilufer's silence in the council could become powerful. Everyone expects her to remain wounded and quiet, but she may speak only once, and that one sentence may change the room. She might say that the enemy is not strong because the palace has many hearts. The enemy is strong because those hearts are being forced to stand apart. The kind of line would show her wisdom. She does not deny her pain, but she refuses to let enemies use it. Asporka may also surprise the council instead of defending herself emotionally. She may offer information from the monastery. She may name sign routes, faces, or hidden method. This transforms her from a source of tension into a source of intelligence. Some will still warn that she can serve the state. This is how her palace began the change. The council should end with Orhan making a clear move. He divided the enemy's strategy into their parts: the monastery network, the tribal pressure, and the palace division. Then he assigned answer to each, not emotional answer, strategic answer. The state begins to move again. Messages are sent. Scout ride out. Guards change positions. Spies are followed. The skippers are watching carefully. Sahinsa's allies are baited into revealing themselves. By the end of this section, trust is not fully restored, but direction returns. That is enough for now. Orhan does not need everyone to be healed in one night. He needs them moving in the same direction. A broken council can still become a strong state if the ruler knows how to gather the pieces. Nilüfer and Sporka face the truth. The palace cannot survive with Nilüfer and Sporka remain only symbol of division. Their conflict has been watched by servants, discussed by enemies, and felt by Boran in every silent corridors. But now the story must move deeper. These two women must face the truth without the noise of the court. Not them, not in front of Boran, not in front of Malhan, not as rival performing pain for other. They must meet at the two women trapped inside the same destiny. Their sin should begin quietly. Perhaps Nilüfer finds Sporka in a garden after the council. Perhaps Sporka is alone, still carrying the weight of the monastery and Orhan harsh wounds.